Did you ever see the clip of Ernest Borgnine when he was on the Today Show and they were like, Ernest Borgnine, you made it to like 85. How did you keep being so old? And he like turns to the camera and he's like, I love to masturbate. And everyone's like, what do we do right now?
Welcome, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just its first televised episode, and rate it on that episode alone, ignoring anything we might know about the future run of that show. This week we're going to be talking about The Crew. The Crew went 10 episodes, lasting one season so far on Netflix, and we're going to be talking about episode 1, I Guess That Cake Did Need to Be Refrigerated, which originally aired February 15th, 2021. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the guys, Gordo, Joe, Nick, and Ferg. What's going on, everyone?
Hello.
Hello. Hector's going to love it.
And I started by talking about that it was one season. Is it officially done, or we don't know that yet, right?
It was canceled officially on the same day as Country Comfort. So burn in hell, both of these
Come on,
shows.
Netflix. Come on.
I don't know how they could cancel a wonderful 30-minute Dunkin Donuts commercial like this TV show was.
Right. I have that. I'm going to get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll get. I definitely want to. I want to deep dive into that specifically as we get to it. But yeah, so for sure we'll talk about the Dunkin Donuts.
I didn't notice.
What? It's a whole scene of the show.
I don't know.
Not only that, all right, so
I've now seen that episode twice. I didn't notice.
I was going to say, I know you've seen the episode multiple times too. But that being said, so The Crew, leading into us doing this episode and prepping for it, who has and hasn't seen the show beforehand?
Watched it all.
I have not.
All right, so first time for me, Gordo, and Nick. Joe and Fergie, you guys watched this whole 10 episodes beforehand?
Yep. Whole thing.
Okay.
And we watched it just like Country Comfort. We watched it all in one night, like the week it came out. We ordered pizza. It was February. It was cold and snowy. We just watched the whole thing.
I'll say a lot of these Netflix shows, especially like the Netflix sitcoms, especially, they're quick and they're light enough so you can binge them pretty easy. And they're fairly short seasons. I think they always do like 10 episode seasons, all these shows, it seems. Like 8 or 10 episodes.
This didn't feel short.
But like there's not like, how like some shows will have like first season is 23 episodes long. And like that never happens with these Netflix shows.
I think that's dead, honestly. I think that's like a dead sort of formatting thing, right? Like maybe for some major like networks like NBC, ABC, CBS, whatever. But I mean, even a show that comes out, like what was that show with like Mr. Mayor, right? If you're like last year, huge cast, big network, 10 episodes. Like we're not going to put all the money in right now to figure it out. We'll see if people like it. And
funny actually is I've been watching The Good Place since we did it. And there's an episode where Tahani is watching one of her like British TV shows, and someone asked her, said, "Oh, what's this?" And she was like, "Oh, this is so and so. It's been on the air for 16 years. They've made it almost 30 episodes." So I guess that's like a common thing to have, just be on forever and just release like an episode every 6 months for some reason.
Yeah, a lot of those British shows tend to run
Doctor
like
Who.
6 episodes. They don't do seasons, they do series, yeah. But so a series, it would be like 6 episodes like typically. But yeah, let's talk about this show, the one that we intended to do. So let's get right into it. The first scene, we're just at like this NASCAR track, and we see Kevin James, who plays Kevin, and he's talking to Jake, who's the NASCAR driver. So
From
it
State Farm.
So it looks like Kevin is the crew chief. Am I getting this right, Nick? Nick's there. Nick, you're our resident NASCAR guy.
Really. I mean,
right?
I'm familiar with it, but like I always just watched it when my dad was watching it. I never like watch it on my own.
But it would be safe to say that you know more about NASCAR than the other four of us combined.
I don't know. Gordo lived in Florida, so
that's a very valid point.
I used to watch it a little bit when I was younger, but I'd always fall asleep.
Hey, I remember your Jeff Gordon posters. Was it just because his name was Gordon?
It was definitely because of the last name.
Just gonna say, like, isn't there a guy named Gordon?
Very rare does that happen. There's a guy with my last name.
Yeah, Gordon's super uncommon.
You have the most
that rare
common last
Gordon.
name of all of us, yeah.
It in sports, I mean,
I can think of a bunch.
Josh Gordon.
Ben Gordon, basketball.
Yep.
Gordon Bombay. Sorry, I had to go first name.
I appreciate that.
There's plenty of
Gordon,
we could Google
from the
it
Nike
sometime.
commercials, or like "Do It, Gordon" from those Massachusetts Nike commercials from when we were kids.
Yeah.
The famous basketball player Michael Gordon.
Yes.
Anyways,
Do It Gordon was in session 9. That wasn't
Yeah,
in
Session
it was
9.
session
Do
9.
it, Gordon.
Do it, Gordon.
Yeah, that was a Nike joke. Do it, just do it.
Oh.
Do it, Gordon. I was trying to go
Oh.
high. I was
Oh,
trying
it's
to go
a
high.
joke.
This is what I get for not making just the easiest pun joke like I normally do. I tried to go one tier above and just fucking
Stick to
smash
what you
into the
know, right?
ground.
You're too smart for us, Joe.
Yeah, that multi-layered insane asylum / Nike joke didn't quite hit, huh?
Sometimes you fly too close to the sun.
Yeah. So, all right. So now we have Kevin, who's the crew chief, though, right? That's
Yeah, I
that's
guess
the position.
that's what you would call him, I guess.
I think so.
And then he's trying to kind of give like Jake this pep talk before the race. And he's giving him a little bit of advice. And as he's talking, you just see like Jake's head starts to bob. And it turned out that he had headphones in, but when I first saw it, I thought he was just doing like a weird neck stretch because it didn't look like he was bobbing his head to music. It was very, very awkward.
I agree. Yeah, it didn't look like a natural bob. He wasn't bopping to like a normal beat. It would have had to have been some sort of strange music.
But I feel like you can read it right away. Like I knew right away. This is where my blood
Same.
started to boil for the first time. Everything about this show is like, hey, modern. And it just fucking throws it at you. And it's so aggravating. And this is like the very beginning of it.
Well, yeah, because his response is, "Did you hear the new Cardi B? It's sick." It's like, oh my God.
I'd like to go on record too. I have no idea who the fuck that is.
I
mean, I
figured
know
you
the
would.
name. I don't think I could pick her out of a lineup.
Really?
Yeah.
Guys,
Come
she's
on.
very,
No, I
very
know
popular.
even I know who Cardi B is. She
I mean,
did
I've
that
heard the
WAP
name,
song.
but I don't know who it is. I couldn't tell you a song.
You guys don't
She
know
did the
WAP?
WAP song, the wet ass pussy song.
Please clip that. Somebody. It's
Okay,
going
so she's
into the
WAP
bank.
girl.
She's the WAP girl with Megan Thee Stallion.
And
They
I
both
think I
did
need
that.
to let it be known that Joe not knowing who Cardi B is not because he's old. It's just because he's not in tune with like pop culture at all.
Yeah.
I live inside of a glass bubble of insanity. I have no idea what
Yeah.
any of this shit is.
That's why he moved to the state that's still stuck in the 60s.
Yeah. If Cardi B was in like a 1970s action movie, then like there's a chance Joe would know who she is.
Oh, for sure. If she was like a Charles Bronson love interest at some
Delta
point.
Oh,
Force
hey,
7.
Cardi B.
Hey, I got a wet ass pussy over here.
Somebody go get him up.
Why is it always funny?
Charles Bronson and Cardi B in buckets.
At what point, by the way, does someone like finally give up on our show because they're tired of hearing us do old timey voices? Because I feel like it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away.
We're
anytime
bringing in
soon.
that old timey crowd. It's all good. We lose some, we gain some.
So yeah, so from there, after referencing Cardi B, Jake starts to check himself out in like the reflection of Kevin's sunglasses. He's kind of like a complete airhead, and they're really driving it in like immediately as soon as you meet this character.
Yeah, there's no subtlety in that.
Also, like, couldn't they have picked, like, if they're gonna go with that, like, he's vain thing, couldn't they have picked the more handsome fellow? Like,
I guess I didn't have a strong opinion of him one way or another. I mean,
I had to look him up because a few people in the show I had no idea who they were. Like, obviously, some people and one character, which I think makes the most sense in the world. When I saw him, I was like, "Oh my god!" But this guy was like just in a bunch of Harry Potter movies. Does that make sense? I've never seen a Harry Potter movie.
I haven't either, actually.
The driver?
Yeah,
Who'd he play?
Yeah, what was his character?
was it Fantastic Beasts or actual Harry Potter? Because there haven't been a new Harry Potter in a long time.
well, I imagine he was young. Like, I imagine he was like a kid, right? When I looked up his IMDb, it looked like he was in like two different. There was a part
his
1 and a
name?
part 2. I remember that.
Deathly Hollows?
Greddy Stroma.
Spell that?
Greddie Stroma, Stroma, like trauma with an S.
That's a strange name.
That's an interesting name. But I didn't know who he was. But when I looked him up at the time, I remember seeing that too, being like, "Who's this guy?" And he was
Freddie
in like Harry,
Stroma.
at least
Oh,
at least,
Freddie
Harry Potter, I
Stroma.
think two.
Yeah, why did you say Greddy?
Who the fuck's Greddy?
What's his real name?
Freddie.
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 Did I say Greddy?
Yes.
Okay, I write these notes
And
while I'm
you
drinking.
spelled
Okay,
it.
give me a break. That's probably pretty good for drinking. I got Stroma right.
Oh my God, Ferg, do you see who his wife is?
No.
The girl from
it Cardi B?
VGHS.
From what?
From VGHS.
Oh,
What
wow.
is that?
Yeah.
Video game
nothing
high
you guys
school.
would ever see.
Oh.
It's like a YouTube show about kids going to a video game high school. It's not as bad as it sounds, I'll tell you that. But
it was hilarious.
It was pretty good.
That sounds
It was a
fucking terrible.
YouTube series.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
So, guys, Freddie Stroma played
Gretty.
Cormac. Freddie. I said Freddie. I didn't say Gretty.
It's Gretty.
Gretty Stroma
Thank you.
played Cormac McLagan in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
So I was going to make up a name originally when you were
Oh.
looking, and then the real name was even dumber than the actual name that
Cormac
than the one I was
McLagan.
going to make up.
Stop
He
being
was like
racist
the-
against wizards, Jay.
He was like the opposing Quidditch captain.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Hey, at least he was a captain, right? He rose to
Kid, don't
ranks.
cool me with Harry Potter. You just spent 10 minutes playing Pokemon with 3 people.
On my phone, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
It's a
don't
good way
act
to
like
get
you're
out and
so
be active.
fucking cool for not liking Harry Potter when you're playing with little dolls.
I don't play with it's an app on my phone. I
You
don't
have
have
a room full of little dolls, Jay?
I have-
To be fair.
I collect some wrestling figures.
Little dolls.
If only they had little cars they can drive around in, Nick.
Yeah, I got some. Vroom, vroom.
Oh, my God. You guys should, like, combine hobbies. It would be
And then
awesome.
you guys could do a NASCAR episode of your
I can't.
show.
This is enough NASCAR for me for a long time. Once
You
we
can
get
have
through
your
this
Stone
episode.
Cold figure ruin my Corvette figure.
But all right. So now, anyways, moving forward. So when Kevin sees Jake staring at himself through the reflection of his glasses, he finally grabs him and he drags him into the garage area where the rest of the crew is, and he like throws him to the ground. And they're arguing about why like they don't win. And Jake was like, the other drivers get to listen to music. He's like, they win. So it's okay for them to do it. You're not winning. And then Jake goes on to blame the car.
Valid argument.
Yeah. And then Jake blames the car. And then another member of the crew, who later we find out his name's Chuck, goes for him and like says he wants to slap the blonde highlights out of his head, which I don't think he had any blonde highlights though.
These are natural.
But
What is Chuck from? Because I don't know if I recognized his voice or him.
You know his
there
voice.
was something familiar about him.
From what, though?
He's Uncle Ruckus
Oh, yeah.
from the
Oh,
Boondocks.
Shit. Okay. That's what it is.
He's one of those guys who's in a million things, but when he starts yelling, you're like, because it's a voice thing, you're like, oh shit, that's Uncle Ruckus.
So here's something
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you picked up on, and it was really, really bad. And I rewound to make sure that like I saw correctly. When Chuck yelled that at him that he was going to slap the blonde highlights out of his head, he was dubbed over. That's not what the original line was. It was
What
very
was it?
obviously dubbed. I don't know what the original line was.
I'd like to think that he did like an Uncle Ruckus line, and Netflix was like, yo, you can't say that on
I'm
this
assuming
Dunkin Donuts commercial.
Can we get, like, a deaf person to read his lips?
it looked real bad and off. Like it looked like he was saying something completely different.
So usually, like, they probably just cut the audio in from one of the takes and then used the video from another take. So it was probably just off sync, and he was still
Yeah.
saying the same thing.
I would say not rewatch it, but maybe I'll like cut the clip for you to see. But it's so off that I don't think it's just out of sync. It looks like he said something.
Did it look
completely
like
different.
he was, like, swearing or something that they'd like, edited
I don't
it
think he
out,
would
or-
have swore because it's a Netflix show, but I bet it was something like "I'm gonna kill you" or something like that, and they went nope, too far, and they probably told him to dial it back or something like that.
They're like, hey,
That's-
man,
that's my
if you
guess.
swear in the show, we'll end up having to cancel it after one season, so clean up your language.
Maybe it would have been more successful if they were edgy.
They're like, I'm tired of this swearing. This episode is the pit stop. Nothing. All right.
That was funny.
Oh,
You knew you were
yeah.
forcing it as you were saying it. Like you didn't like the joke as it was coming out of your mouth. So this turns into a whole like scuffle anyways. They're all wrestling around until someone starts singing the Star Spangled Banner like from the actual race because the race is going on outside. And then everyone in the crew immediately gets like they stand up and put their hands over their hearts. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, it was weird.
That's
It was
the
really
moment where
forced.
you know exactly where this show is going, right? They're going for like NASCAR, pro America sort of people, but they're also going for like the people who love Adam Sandler but only love Netflix Adam Sandler.
See, I didn't think
People
they
who
were
were
going
like-
for those people. I thought they were mocking those people.
No, I think they're going for them.
No, I thought
people
they were
who
going
like,
for them.
I
why
don't
is there not
think
a
so.
Hubie Halloween Part 2? It's Halloween again. There should be a Hubie Halloween every year.
yeah,
that's the
Hubie
crowd they're
Tubie.
going for. Oh man, I would watch Hubie Tubie.
Hubie on Tubi.
And why did I say that so quick? Because I've had this thought in my head when I was watching Hubie Halloween yesterday.
The only thought I had in my head when I watched that movie was Steve Buscemi can't need the money. Like, why is he doing
He's part of
this?
he's part of the clique though. Like he's part of like
Yeah.
that crew.
I know, but
That's
they
his
could have
dues.
gotten like Kevin James' brother. From
I
King of
shit
Queens
on
or
his movies a
somebody.
lot. I liked that movie. I thought it was harmless.
We watched it
That
every
movie
time
wasn't
there's
that
a new
bad, though.
movie that Adam Sandler has any part of on Netflix. We watch it. I love The Wrong Missy. I love a
Me
lot
too.
of
The
it.
Wrong
Wrong
Missy
Missy
was
is not
hilarious. The
The
Wrong
Wrong
Missy
Missy was very, very good.
didn't have any business being as funny as it was.
No, surprisingly good.
As far as the Adam Sandler universe goes, I always say that Kevin James gets all the parts that Chris Farley would have got. Like,
Well,
imagine
yeah,
how
yeah.
good Paul Blart would have been if it was Chris Farley.
Yeah.
I now pronounce you Chuck and Farley would have been the best fucking movie of all time.
But this
Why would he
show
keep his
here,
name?
this show here, I don't think
know.
like this doesn't feel like Chris Farley could have played the role. I'll say this, regardless of what we'll get into it at the end of the episode, how we're gonna grade it. But I think Kevin James does play this role properly.
He does like sad, like guy trying hard really well, like emotional sad guy.
Like, I think he was cast right for this part. Whether or not the show should exist, Netflix clearly thought it shouldn't after they made it. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Kevin James fan by any means, but I don't hate his role or character in this. Like, it's
Right.
not an insufferable Kevin James. It's a very doable one.
Yeah, I feel like I usually come to the sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but I usually come to the like defense of these people in a lot of these shows where I'm like, this show sucked, but this person was good. Kevin James, I really love. He's got personality. He's got charisma. He's funny. He's great in this. He's just given fucking garbage around him and he can't save it. And that's a bummer.
he also can't say no.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
You know what? You know what I noticed with this show? A lot of the jokes, every once in a while, they do make me laugh, and then they continue the joke an extra like minute, and it ruins anything.
Yeah, they dead
got.
horse it.
All
Gordo.
goodwill they got.
I was going to say, Kevin James is the executive producer of this show. So,
The EP credit, though, is such a
Meaningless.
meaningless thing. It's literally just a way for them to be in the credits and make a little more money. Like, they probably
It's a
didn't
point scenario.
like help produce it in any way. I mean, of course, he could have had a big executive production role, but I doubt that. There's a lot of executive producer credits that don't mean anything.
This show, I mean, look, even this show as it is, I would have taken a second season if I know it's canceled. But I feel like a little bit of retooling, and you could make this show like a 5-season show. There's some really funny people in it. The girl Beth we haven't gotten to yet. Her and Kevin James have actually a really good chemistry. They're both very funny in it. The situations that come up are very funny. It should have got. I'm surprised. Like Country Comfort should have been shot in the fucking head. Right? It's the worst show of all time.
We'll get into a lot of this as we go along too, as we introduce some characters, and I do think you have some points there, but there's definitely there's some meat on the bone there. There's a lot of, and we talked about this when we've done a couple Netflix shows on our show so far. We've done Country Comfort, we've done the Big Show, and there's a lot of common threads and themes with some of these Netflix shows. And there's a couple I have noted that we'll point out as we get to them.
It's weird because they do horror and dramas so well. Like there's plenty of shows that I love that they do, but I haven't hit on any of their comedies yet.
Here's a 20-part fucking in-depth documentary about some serial killer, and you're like, I will take my entire Sunday and sit here and watch this. And then they're like, we're doing NASCAR. Like, oh, this is so fucking bad. Like, Jesus Christ. The Big Show's got 4 kids. Like, oh, fuck me.
So moving forward, we see all the crew like in their like area during the race. I didn't even know what this was. Like, again, Nick, can you help me here? They were all like in this like control area.
When they were like sitting underneath like the tent thing.
When they were like, they're all like in front of like computers or whatever it looked like.
Oh yeah, it's just they're
indoors.
up high. Like that's where they can see down onto the track.
Yeah, it's like Talladega Nights.
I really thought like everyone in your crew is just like ground level, like near the pit crew.
That's why I don't
about
think
this.
he's the crew chief. I think he
I think he
is
runs
maybe
the
just
company.
yeah. He might just like because the crew chief is down on the ground as far as I know, and the spotters are up way high. So I don't think he's a spotter, but I think he's just like works there. I don't think I would know his
he
title.
could be a manager.
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah.
Like the head coach. I don't know what you would call that. In
Yeah, I don't
NASCAR.
honestly. And the reason I assumed he was the crew chief is because the only position in NASCAR other than the driver that I could identify by name. So I just assumed that that's what he was.
You don't know flag wavers?
I didn't know that was part of the team. I thought that was like
No,
the
it's not.
the NASCAR guy does it, right?
Or like tire guy.
Yeah, it's part of the like pit crew. But anyways, so they're talking about how this race is going to go, and they're like, this is the race where everything's going to change. Their luck's going to change, and immediately gets into an accident.
So can I just say that Kevin James is the crew chief?
He is the crew chief.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
and you found
the
this on what?
description. IMDb. It says, life in the garage swerves off track for a NASCAR crew chief and his tight-knit racing team when a new boss steps in and shakes things up.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I hate that copy so much.
Also, that him crashing was the most predictable thing in the world.
Oh,
Everything they said led to it. Like,
Yeah, and it was within seconds. So, like, the second the race starts, he gets into an immediate accident in the first race, in the first lap. I'm sorry. And they just all decide they're going to go for soft pretzels. That's how they deal with that.
Do you guys like soft pretzels or hard pretzels? I mean, again, it's
soft.
hard for me to gauge.
I love
now,
them
but-
both as different things.
I
but-
hate hard pretzels.
What?
They're so boring. They're like
Pretzel
the most
rods, though,
boring
man.
snack.
I like to mix them with Cheez-Its and just eat them all.
How
Yeah.
fucking dare you?
So I love both pretzels, soft and hard pretzels. They're just two different things. It's weird that they're both called pretzels because they're so different.
Funny, soft pretzels are the one and only time I'll eat mustard.
I won't eat
Interesting.
mustard on that either.
I
don't like
love
mustard.
but I mean, how could you? I mean, okay, if you had to pick, if you're walking by a rack of bags of pretzels, any kind, sticks, regular, whatever, or there's one of those like mall fucking food court pretzel stands, like I feel like everybody's going to the soft.
So
I'd
here's
go
the
pretzel
thing.
rod first.
Oh, shut
Nah,
up!
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do a pretzel
The
rod.
rod
go
is
to
the
the rod
superior
first.
pretzel.
Not over like a mall pretzel.
Oh, for sure it is.
But here's the thing.
Can you put 2 mall pretzels in the side of your mouth and look like a walrus? I don't think so. Rods all day.
Rods all day. So the thing for me with that is I feel that with soft pretzels, a bad soft pretzel sucks. Like there's a really, really
I've never
good
had
ones.
a bad soft pretzel though.
Yeah, some of the ones that are just like at not like at a like that would be at like the hockey rink. You know, they're just like dry and they're like they've been sitting there too
Yeah,
long.
that's true.
But then like a hard pretzel, they're just hard pretzels. Like there's no shitty ones. They're all kind of the same. There's better ones, but in general, you know what? You know exactly what you're getting into.
Soft pretzel's actually more of like a bagel.
Yeah, they're in that
It's like
family.
the bread.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a salt. It's like a salt
Like a
bagel.
pretzel bread.
Yeah. It's softer, obviously, without as much of like a hard on this. This is a weird conversation.
Can we just start calling them salt bagels?
Well, salt bagel's a thing.
Is it? Oh, like a salt, like that's like the topping, like instead of poppy seed.
Yeah, they
you
make
get
bagels
salt?
that are covered in salt. It's a bit much, to be honest with you.
Sounds it.
Ew.
Yeah,
I've
it's
had
a bit much.
an everything pretzel. They put the everything bagel seasoning on it. It's
Sounds
pretty
good.
good. Yeah.
You can just buy the everything seasoning now. I think it's called everything but the bagel.
Yeah, I bought it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have that.
Kelsey eats it all the time.
It's good with cream cheese.
Makes sense with a bagel.
And that was our segment on pretzels.
Weird. It's almost like we don't want to talk about this terrible fucking TV show.
Golds, if you want to sponsor us, please reach out, s1e1pod@gmail.com.
Rolled and golding.
So from this point, this is the start of the intro, which the intro really isn't much. It's just a lot of clips from like various like races through time and some generic guitar music. There's only like like just that kind of stuff.
I like this though, and I like the interstitials because they're showing like 70s car racing, which I just find incredibly more interesting.
We get it.
than-
You like old shit.
Yeah, because that's where your brain is forever locked.
Okay, I was like, geez, Ferg, that was like mean almost.
I'm sorry.
It is crazy though how you just like you genuinely don't enjoy like anything modern, like anything.
I like the new James
Like
Bond
you're wearing a
movies, like
shirt
Fast and
probably from the
Furious.
40s.
The fact that you love the Fast and the Furious movies is one of
That's
the most
true. That's
puzzling things
interesting,
about
yeah.
Right,
you.
that's
though.
like the most
Yeah.
modern thing ever, and I fucking love those movies.
It's so surprising.
I guess for me, what is interesting is that you are locked into a time period that you weren't alive for. It's not like you're like Uncle Rico, just like thinking about like the good old days, because you didn't live through the 70s.
No, in my brain, it's 1979, and everything's way better. And
Yeah.
that's 6 years before I was born. But Fast and Furious is still great.
Family.
I was trying to say it, but I was trying not to giggle. You got it up.
Family.
Well, we live this podcast a quarter mile at a time, and I think that's the most important thing we can take away from it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we recorded it.
And yeah, we're
recorded
getting
a
through
quarter mile at a
scenes quarter hour at a time. So to go forward. So now we're in the garage and it's Bobby's birthday. We don't know who Bobby is yet, but if you actually look at their work shirts, it says Bobby Spencer Racing. So I guess that would be the tip off that Bobby's their boss. So he's not there yet. So they're all comparing what they got him. And like Chuck got him like 10 pounds of squirrel meat, which seemed odd.
That's a lot of squirrel.
And then Amir, who actually, like Amir, I didn't write his name down, but he's also in Cobra Kai. He's one of the like cousins in Cobra Kai.
That's
right?
what it
Or-
was. Okay.
He
Holy
works at the car.
shit.
He works
Yeah.
at the car dealership.
He also, we talked about a couple weeks, a few episodes ago, that the show Bajillion Dollar Properties
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
on CISO,
That's
NBC's pre-Peacock. He's like the main character in that, and he's
Oh, okay.
really funny in that.
Also, what's his name? Chuck was in Bajillion Dollar too.
Like
He
from
plays
show-
the
Oh,
Neil
I thought-
deCise Tyson.
Okay.
Oh shit, yeah. Did we ever look up if that's on Peacock? I'd love to rewatch that.
What's it called?
Bajillion-dollar properties. Ferg, I'm thinking of one clip immediately that if I send to you, I know I can make you laugh for like 10 minutes, and I'll send to you after this recording.
So as he's looking that up, some of the other things he got for his birthday were 2 tickets to Hamilton. That's what Amir got him. And then like we get like a weird, I forget what it was. It's just a bad Kevin James joke. And then he was so tickled by the joke he just like hit Amir with that he just starts dancing very awkwardly. And that was like one of those, Ferg, you said that they'll let the joke go on too far.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin James dancing right there was just like, okay, we get it. Like you're celebrating by dancing and it lasted way too long.
I actually, because the dude Chuck, like, they don't even know what to do with the jokes going on. So Chuck's like, "Oh, look at the dance!" Like,
Yeah.
it's like, just like, what the hell?
I also like the Hamilton thing too is like the kind of thing that they addressed a little better in King of Queens, where like they would make fun of Spence or somebody and like try to make a "you're not a man" or "we think you're quote unquote gay" joke or whatever, but like would handle it in like a way that it wasn't as offensive. I feel like in this it was just like, oh, this guy Hamilton, wink, wink, which I find so much more wholly offensive than just like
Yeah.
saying.
By the
something.
way, update, not on Peacock.
That's insane. So weird.
It's on Pluto TV though.
Oh, there you go. That's a
Look at
free app.
Pluto.
So an additional gift that he got was a statue, which was from Beth, who we're meeting for the first time in this scene. And I guess like she's like the counterpart to Kevin. We don't know what her job is, but they seem to
She's
have
the
like a
office
rivalry.
manager.
Did they say
Yeah,
that right
they got
away?
the yin and the yang going as far as
Yeah,
the
because,
shop
like-
goes.
Because they were clearly in competition with one another with what they got him. So they were supposed to have like a $500 cap, and she exceeded that to get the statue made by like his favorite artist. And she takes a picture of him because she's so like tickled by, "Oh, I got you, I beat you." And that's when he again was like, does like a fake trumpet to reveal he got Bobby's car from the first race he ever won. He like found it in a garage in Memphis and said he had to arm wrestle a guy for it, and then ended up just paying him. So he lost the arm wrestling match.
See, and that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier, where like normally that would be so flat and so dumb, but Kevin James is really charming.
And
that
that's
he
the
says
thing.
a joke like that, and you're like, okay, sure. Like
He's good
I'm
with
not
that
mad
like
about
under
this.
his breath like side comment
Yeah,
when he delivers
exactly.
something. He does a lot of that. That's kind of how his delivery
He's playing
goes.
Kevin James in this, and that's a great character. Like I love everything he's in usually.
You have to imagine that Kevin James knows that the way some of these lines were written is just bad, right? So he kind of like I'm not sure just some other schmo actor could have gotten through those lines, and like the show wasn't great, but like he made these lines bearable, I think is the point.
Puts the
Yeah.
James stank on him.
Yeah.
And he capped that off by he now is trying to take a photo of her, but he pulls the joke where it's like it wasn't like he was pulling a joke. The joke of the script was he doesn't know how to use the phone, which I thought was a little cringy.
I thought that
and
was
they
funny.
stretched that. Yeah, I didn't like that
I just
at
turned
all.
the lights on at home.
I thought that went on a little too long. At this point, we meet Catherine, who's Bobby's daughter. She shows up to the party.
She looked familiar too. Is she from anything?
I didn't look her up. I should have, but I
Might
did
have been
not.
one of those faces, but she looked like I've seen her in something. But like
She
I'm
does look
bad with
familiar,
that.
but I don't know if it's from that or she just reminds me of other actresses I've seen.
She's
but
not in much. Yeah, she's fairly young. I mean, I think they said something in one of the episodes too, where she's like, "I graduated high school in the year." You're just like, "Oh my god."
She has
But
a
she's
little
not,
bit
like,
of
been in a ton stuff.
Allison Brie vibe to her.
I think that's it. I think I
could
get
see that, yeah.
vibe.
So I think that's kind of like what I see sometimes with her, in this episode at least. And Kevin's introducing her to everyone, and that's when her and Beth have an exchange about Beth collecting like Pez dispensers, because she remembered Beth from the past and just remembered that there's something weird about you that you do or collect. I think is what she said to her, which is kind of rude, right? Like,
those millennials not getting us older habit. I don't know what the fuck. I just hated this shit so much.
I just think it's so weird I think it was just weird, the idea that like you've met her before, but your way of recalling that is be like, what was that weird thing you do that like you like, but is clearly odd to me? I don't know. It's just it's not the right way to deliver anything to someone, but they were trying to sneak that joke in there. So whatever.
It's like, hey, you're that old spinster, right? Like that's basically what that joke was. Like, you're the
they
weirdo.
try to show that she's a bitch, but they're also trying to show that the other one's weird. And like,
Yeah.
so it didn't hit, but it was two birds with one stone.
Yeah. And then that follows by like Chuck hunts, I guess, and he tells her that he can get her anything with 4 legs.
I actually like this line.
So she asks
It's a good
him
line.
to kill her ex and his Instagram girlfriend. It's like, that's a little bit of a morbid joke. But you know what's funny is like the way it read when they were delivering it, it doesn't seem dark. Like they delivered it so light, but the concept of what she actually said was a little morbid.
I just like his reaction. He's like, I was thinking more of a deer, but if that's what you want or something like that.
Yeah.
I do like too though that he was sort of oddly open to it. He's like, well, you are the boss's daughter. If I have to go shoot some motherfucker for you, I guess I will.
He's like, I'm just a hired gun, whatever you need.
This is also, I mean, just another time where it's like Facebook, because she's like, Beth is like, there's a big Facebook group, and then she's like, her Instagram boyfriend, like everybody, it's like, shut the fuck up and just be real people. Nobody talks like this.
The thing is, when you do a lot of that stuff, this happens in a lot of shows, and it ends up being counterproductive. It's good for the moment. You mention a lot of stuff like that, and it makes it relevant and modern, but it will also date your show very quickly.
Oh, for sure. I mean, imagine this show 20 years ago when it was like, my LiveJournal friend told me he wasn't going to date me anymore. You watch that now and be like, fuck.
You try to like go about your script. You want to make it so it can stay as evergreen as possible. So you want to stray away. You want it to be somewhat relevant and make pop culture references, but you have to pick and choose what kind of things you're mentioning, because especially technology. Because technology and social media stuff, that moves too quick, and things won't be relevant in 5 years.
I think they knew with this show there was no longevity, so they just shot their shot. You know?
See, I think that the show could have gone long, though. But again, we always play this game of like better writing. If she had just said, there's a pretty big convention in Dallas every year, so, right?
Yeah.
Evergreen. Right? And if she was like, can you kill my boyfriend and his internet girlfriend? Evergreen, right? Because the internet's not going anywhere, but you don't have to put a company label on it.
She could have just said new girlfriend. She
Yeah,
didn't have
because,
to
well, the
say-
thing was, it wasn't even that.
Didn't have to be the internet at all.
Yeah, and I don't even think that it was implied that he only knows her from the internet. It was just that she's like an Instagram model, so she's one of those.
She's
like,
hot on the internet.
like a pseudo influencer. Yeah. So there's also a point where like everyone's just rude to Amir again because they bring up those like Hamilton tickets again, and it was like something about like, oh, so I won't have to learn his name. It was like, what is going on? Why is everyone mean to this guy? Like,
Yeah, he's like the weird
nerd.
kicking guy. Like they just kick him when he's down all the time because they need a character to kick when he's down, and it just seems unnecessary because he seems fairly competent and good at his job.
it's like the whole crew, male and female, like everyone there thinks it's so hilarious that he enjoys Hamilton. Like that's the strangest thing
I
in the
think
world.
it was that he bought those for the dude that it was just such a bad gift. It didn't fit his taste. I think that was the joke, not that he
It
bought
seemed
Hamilton.
more anti-Hamilton more than it seemed like this doesn't fit Bobby's personality. That's how I read it.
I read it more as like we're gonna reference something very popular at the time, like Hamilton, that will age and date this show completely. But then also make the joke of like, well, he's an idiot because this older guy whose 70th birthday it is probably isn't going to be into Hamilton.
He bought musical tickets for an old redneck that owns a NASCAR team.
Right.
Like,
But again, this is that coded shit where it's like, this is code for like, you did a quote unquote gay thing, right? Like that's their way of getting around it now. And it's just so weird to me.
Yeah, I think it's just lazy writing, I think, in general there. But,
Yeah, very lazy.
but this is when we actually meet Bobby finally, and he enters and he starts a speech about not thinking he'd even make it to 70.
yeah, you know what he reminded me of? He reminds me of the old guy that dies in basketball who chokes
Mr.
on the hot
Dinslow?
dog. Yeah.
Ernest Borgnine.
He reminded me of so much.
Did you ever see the clip of Ernest Borgnine when he was on the Today Show and they were like, Ernest Borgnine, you made it to like 85. How did you keep being so old? And he like turns to the camera and he's like, I love to masturbate. And everyone's like, what do we do right now? It's like a great moment in live TV history. But this is Bruce McGill. Everybody would know this dude from a million things.
You know what's funny about this character is
What?
before I didn't know who was playing him. In my head, before he came out, this is who I thought of. Like before, when they were talking about
This is
the
the
guy,
actor you had in mind?
he was the actor I had in mind for this, and it came out. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, maybe I saw him, and it just like, without realizing it subconsciously, but I was thinking of him for that character, and it was crazy when he walked out.
I mean, he's been all around our childhoods, right? Like he's MacGyver's best friend. He's in Animal House. He's in Time Cop. He's in a billion things. And still, like this movie, this is brand new, right? He always shows up. But I'm always stoked to see him because I love MacGyver so much.
You know, it's funny. We talked about how this show keeps using like stuff that people won't get, and we bring up MacGyver and
I know, like we do the opposite.
all
of
these
this,
other
like,
old stuff that people
He's in Time Cop. Like, oh, good. Great job, guys.
We like reverse datas.
During his speech about how he didn't think he'd make it to 70, Jake raises his hand because apparently Jake doesn't know how numbers work, because they really play into like, oh, Jake's a dummy. They flip back and forth though, because they don't go like fully with him sometimes. Sometimes he's so dumb it's unbearable, but then sometimes he acts completely normal, and like he just, I don't know if that's writing or if that's he didn't know how to pick a lane for that character and he just flashes back and forth.
As you know, I hate characters like that. It's why I didn't like Taco, the too dumb to function in society in real life character. Like,
yeah, but Taco's at least funny.
Drives me nuts.
This character is just devoid of anything, right? It's just an energy suck. It's hard to watch. Like, he's get go away heat, right? You don't want to even see him on screen.
He's just not relatable enough. Yeah, and that too. Well, he just plays like the airhead dumb guy. Like, and there's just so many shows now that have that same exact character.
Yeah.
I mean, for another Netflix show, like I'm sure at some point we'll do Fuller House, but like Jimmy Gibbler, it's the same exact guy.
Oh God, I forgot about Jimmy Gibbler.
Yeah.
I hated him at first, but he won me over by the series finale. God bless Jimmy Gibbler.
I don't think I ended up watching the last season.
I didn't finish it
watching it,
but we'll cover that on a different day.
Okay.
So Bobby tells him that there's more things he wants to do in his life before it's over. So as a result, he's going to hand the shop over to Catherine, his daughter. And we get a little bit of silence, and then Kevin kind of breaks the ice and offers her the car that he just bought her dad. That's like the little button joke to kind of close out that scene. And then we flash to Bobby's office, and Kevin enters to like talk to him, and they have a little 11 a.m. glass of Jack Daniels, which, Joe, I'm sure you've done on more than one occasion.
I was going to say, I saw that and was like, I can relate very well to this scene. Also, the most cabinets I've ever seen in an office in my entire life. I don't know who set designed this, but it's just like kitchen cabinets.
That's where they keep the car
all
parts.
Across the wall.
A lot of files, maybe. A lot of documents. Well, kind of goes into the stuff he says, right? Like maybe because he's not a very technologically savvy guy, so maybe he has a lot of paperwork.
It makes sense.
But he's not happy with where the team is at currently, and he said they used to fight for lead of the pack. Now they're fighting to be in the middle. And Kevin's like, that's just how racing goes. Like, sometimes you're on the top, and like sometimes you're not. Bobby tells him how like now he used to live for race day, and now he can hardly watch it on TV. He gets through like half the race, and also shouts pigs in a blanket right around there because he was trying to think of what pigs in a blanket were. That was another thing he did earlier too. Forget the other time.
Yeah, because he's talking about how he's missed this. He's lost the step.
Oh yeah, there's an ongoing joke with him where he's always trying to say something and like kind of trails off, and then thinks of it mid-sentence later and just shouts it out. He did it like 3 or 4 times in like a very
There's
limited
make a joke
time.
too where he's like, I spent so much of my time in a car without a helmet. Like, they're trying to set up that he's like, a little punch drunk.
Yeah. So he said half of racing's computers now, and he's not really sure that he can change with the times. And Kevin's retort is, well, hey, remember how you used to always call women skirts, and then you were spoken to by one of the women's lawyers, and now you don't do it anymore. So you changed.
That was a classic example right there of you not doing old-timey voice when you should have. Like,
Well-
hey, you skirts. Then you got an email from that lawyer that said don't do it anymore.
If I wasn't talking through the perspective of
Why are all
Kevin,
these
I
dames
suppose.
so angry? Yeah.
Hey, Toots, get over here.
Hey, baby, you want a coolatta? It's just this entire episode.
We'll get to the coolata. So yeah,
Did we
so
fucking have to?
Bobby's defending his daughter. He's like, Catherine went to Stanford, and she has a ton of smart ideas. And Kevin doesn't seem to like the concept of ideas. Like he was against that. And this was another like forced joke to me. He's like, rice, it's been the same for 5,000 years, and then someone decided to make it out of cauliflower.
I agree
Not
with
someone
Kevin.
was wrong.
It was just that
My
joke.
man.
That joke is fine, and he even delivered it okay. It's just the placement of where it was.
It
was
took
like
too long to get there.
It was like they had this joke in mind, and they're like, where do we put this in the script? Like someone thought of it, and they needed to like get it in there.
Kevin James wrote it in bed and giggled
Yeah.
to himself.
So it's like, how do we unnaturally just bring up cauliflower rice in the middle of nowhere in this episode?
I will say, as a person who's been force-fed a number of pizzas on cauliflower, they're like, it's just like bread. It is
Nope.
not just like
It's
bread.
not.
It is
But
not.
I will
you know
say it's
what?
not that bad, though.
It's not bad either.
I expected way worse. It wasn't that bad.
The only thing I like it in is somebody makes a gluten-free, like Totino's pizza roll out of it, and you'd never tell the difference. But anything else, it's awful.
You know what,
It
Joe?
smells so
Didn't you
bad.
say at one point there's a chance that you might not actually be gluten-free and it might be something else? Have you ever
there's a
looked
chance
into
it
that?
could be some sort of like kidney, like I don't produce some sort of thing. I have to do like a test for it where they go like super invasive into me.
Joe, April Fools, I've been poisoning you for years.
That's Ferg and Big Cheese It have been after me this whole time. Instead of catfishing me, you're goldfishing me.
Dinner.
I die.
So parts of this episode will only be catered to people who listen to us every week, apparently. If you're coming in here for the first time, I would recommend going back and listening to some past episodes and you'll get half of these jokes.
Right after you listen to Cardi B.
Yeah. Also, if you're listening to us for the first time, welcome and thank you. But yeah, so Bobby thinks Catherine and Kevin are going to be a good team, and Bobby thinks Jake is a hell of a driver despite being as dumb as an inbred possum. And Kevin's retort is that more like a raccoon who's going to graduate late.
That's just what's
didn't
happening
get
here.
that.
Yeah.
It was another forced joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't need the Kevin James addition to the joke. He could have just said, I think Jake's a hell of a driver despite being dumb as a inbred possum. Even just possum would be fine. Like inbred possum doesn't make much sense, but whatever.
I feel like there's also like, if you're going to lose like a country colloquialism, use a real one.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, he's as nervous as a long-haired dog in a room full of rocking chairs, you'd be like, okay, I understand what that means.
Animals inbreed all the time.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's not a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick always goes like, so why can't we? What's the big deal?
The squirrels can do it. Why can't I?
Just bullshit.
Fucking possums get to do it. And then again, Bobby says Catherine thinks his daughter and Kevin are going to get along like pineapple and ham. He's like, I can't stop thinking about luau's.
Another forced joke.
Yeah, they went to that a few times.
Yeah, they pushed that one hard, the luau thing.
So pineapple and ham, I mean, they do go together. I mean,
No, they don't.
They make a delicious pizza.
No, so
No,
I
they
knew
don't.
I knew someone was going to bring
It's delicious. I don't know why. Why do you hate
Does
it?
not belong on
this
pizza.
up. I don't like it
I
on
love
pizza.
ham. I love pineapple, but never two shall they meet.
Oh, it's
If
so
you-
good.
No, hold on. If you cook a ham, like a honey ham in the oven, you guys don't put like pineapple on top of the ham and bake it
No.
with the pineapple on top?
I
You're
just
missing
recently
out.
started liking pineapple. It was like in the
Pineapple's
last
my
couple of
favorite
years.
Yeah, pineapple is probably my favorite food. No, apples, like in general, are my favorite. Pineapple's right there, though.
So any kind of apple for Nick, really.
Any apple, yeah.
He also likes just eating pine. So it all comes full circle.
I like wood. Tastes like cigarette.
Wow.
And that is a joke that it doesn't matter how many episodes you've listened to, you'll never understand what that is.
That's 20 years
But
old.
we know.
Holy shit. Fuck me.
But no, so I guess we'll just ask this as a blanket question. Who's for and against pineapple on pizza? I love pineapple,
Against.
my favorite fruit. I'm hardcore against it.
So here's the thing. I don't think
I'm
I could
for
do
it.
just a pineapple pizza. It would have to be with the ham. I would never want a straight pineapple pizza.
No.
But together, I think it's the salty and sweet combination because it's not like great ham. It's closer to Spam than ham when you get it on a pizza. So it's really salty, and the pineapple sweetness complements it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just good.
Well, I was at a friend of ours this past weekend, and we ordered some pizzas, and one of them was pineapple, bacon, and jalapeno. And I did try it, in fairness. Pineapple's not a topping for me, but I gave it a shot. It was okay. But pineapple on pizza is just not my thing.
I was
Me
going to say that the traditional Hawaiian plus either pepperoni, bacon, or jalapeno is how you have to do it. Jalapeno minimum because it gives you a heat with the salty and the sweet. So you get kind of all of that all in one. And then if you want to add the bacon too, you can do that too.
I also don't like, and that's my one complaint against Hawaiian pizzas is I hate a pizza topping that weighs the pizza down. You know what I mean? Like it's got too much shit on it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's always floppy and stuff like that. And that's the only thing I don't like about it.
That's any topping, though.
We got like 5 different pizzas, and the pineapple one, because of all the juice in the pineapple, was notably doughier because it just doesn't cook the same because of all the wet that's on the pineapple.
But I don't like any fruit cooked. Like I like apples, but I hate apple pie because I don't like an apple.
Who
that's
doesn't
cooked.
like apple pie?
Me?
You're an un-American.
That's bizarre.
Dare
What don't you like about it?
I don't like it. I like my fruit like cold. Once it's like cooked and hot, I don't know. It like changes its consistency. and
So you don't
taste.
like
It doesn't
any
do it
pie?
for me. No, I like pie. I just don't like
Chocolate
apple
pie?
pie.
But like it'd be like a warm
Listen,
Fruit.
banana cream or go home.
I like
pretty
pecan pie. That's my favorite.
Banana cream with a good crust. Oh my God.
Ooh.
That's what I get for a birthday because I don't do cake.
Yeah, I don't think lemon meringue counts as pie, like really, but like
No, it
it's
does.
my favorite pie.
Yeah, it's a pie.
Counts, yeah.
Why
I
wouldn't it be a
guess.
pie?
I don't know. It just
I
seems
don't
like
like that either.
it seems like it's like an in between area. It's like a pastry more than.
Key lime done right is really good.
Not
I like
lime
key
fan.
lime occasionally, but very rarely. I want like a
yeah,
very
it's
small
like
piece
it's kind of
that.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
I love
birthday
limes,
pies because
but-
I don't like cake.
My mom every year would get me a lemon meringue pie because I'm not a big cake guy.
Do you guys like cream pies?
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay.
Just derailed that conversation.
It's just dead and stuff. So anyways,
We're all adults.
Yeah.
It's Gordo, the cooler.
So moving forward, Beth and Kevin are talking in his office the next day, and she says she didn't get any sleep, and he says that he didn't either, and says, I guess that cake did need to be refrigerated, which is the name of the episode of this show. Episode 1 is named, I guess that cake did need to be refrigerated.
This was the most Kevin James joke of the thing, though. The fact that he's still eating it.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing was, so when he said it, I remember that this was the name of the episode, which I think if you were traditionally watching television, you would never know the name of the episode of the show you're watching. But because, we're prepping and doing all this stuff for our show, like I need to know the actual name of the episode. And I'm like, this is what they named the episode after? Like a throwaway line that has no relevance to what's happening?
Yeah, I
so
didn't get
it was
that
so
either.
weird to me. Yeah.
Respect. I like that.
But yeah, so Beth seems nervous about Catherine taking over. And she notes that the last company that she worked for, she also didn't start and she just joined and she took over and she got rid of everyone who worked there. And that's when she noticed Kevin was eating the cake again. And I thought this was it was like cut to the typical shot of the fat guy eating for a cheap laugh. And it was like, I don't know. I just thought it was too
No, I really like that,
typical. I just expected it.
but it was after like he already said that it was like it made him sick. So
Yeah.
that was funny to me.
Yeah,
The
because
full
that's how
circle,
those jokes work. It's like, it's just like the fatty eats comedy thing. It happens all the time.
I think it would have worked in King of Queens because they built up that relationship for so long. You wouldn't take it as like a weird, cheap joke. In King of Queens, you would have taken it as like a couple who's been together for all these years and this is how they sort of banter. Like if I saw this same joke, and I'm sure it's been close to it in King of Queens, I think it would have worked way better than Beth saying it to him.
They should have just made him Doug. Problem solved.
And then, but he
Better
argues
show?
that
Yes.
he's now building up a tolerance by eating the cake again. So he's not worried about getting sick because he's
It's
not.
not how that works.
No. Joe, you don't just eat Cheez-Its every day figuring you're going to eventually build up a tolerance and be able to eat them.
Oh, if there was only a way.
Like eat 1 today, eat 2 tomorrow, and just see what happens.
All of my recordings have been delayed for a month.
Yeah.
They're all just on the toilet.
If anyone's going to do an episode from the toilet, the first one will be
Gordo.
Gordo. It better
gonna
not
be Gordo.
be me.
Oh, for sure. That's me. That's me. Just wait till I get a laptop and I go mobile. Can set this microphone up.
So anyways, Kevin is convinced that her
That being Gordo wipes his hard drive.
In his butt.
That was implied, I think.
So anyways, Kevin is convinced that he's Catherine's idol, and his phone, it goes off. I think he just gets like a text or something. But Beth picks up the phone to look at it for some reason, and I didn't even understand why her instinct would be to check his phone when it goes off. But she notices that it's Karen with 3 hearts is the contact, and Beth seems a little upset that he didn't tell her that he was seeing someone.
And that somebody is so serious that they're a 3-heart girlfriend.
Yes, but he did explain that Karen put her name in his phone. So that's not on him, I guess. I can see that being a likely situation. That something like that could happen.
That's not him, but like, has anybody ever heard that expression before? Like a 3-heart girlfriend? Is it like a 4-star general? Like that was beyond me.
Yeah.
People put hearts and whatever next to
And
their
emojis and
names
stuff.
Yeah, emojis. But I've
How
heard
do you
of
search
hearts.
for it?
Well, it's still Karen. You type in Karen and her name's going to pop up, and then there's going to be 3 emoji hearts next to her name in your contacts.
Even if the emoji hearts before it, wouldn't it search for that before Karen?
I was under the impression it was Karen and then the 3 hearts.
Oh, I was under the impression it was 3-heart Karen.
But I'm sure even then it would go by text. Like you could type in Karen, it'll pull up.
All right, I'm gonna change one of your names to 3 Heart later, and we'll check it.
It's just like you ever search someone in your contacts by the last name. It doesn't matter that you're not starting from the beginning of the contact name. It doesn't matter that the first name doesn't line up.
I guess that's true. Maybe, I don't know. We'll do some offline research.
But yeah, Kevin says that Beth gets too invested in his relationships, and they reference his last girlfriend Lisa, who she really liked, and they talked about it was kind of like this again, a quick joke about how when he broke up with her, how Lisa cried and then Beth cried, but Beth recalls it differently, and in actuality, Lisa broke up with Kevin, and Kevin was the one who cried. It was what it was. But Beth wants to know about stuff like this, and she is excited at the idea of Kevin seeing someone because then they can go on double dates, and she's apparently seeing someone named Frank. I don't know if they're married or just dating or what, but she wanted an opportunity for the 4 of them to go out.
So this was another joke that made me laugh, and then it went too long, and I was like, damn it.
The whole four-person
bike one, yeah. Her answer was like, couldn't reach the pedals. I laughed, and then she had to keep going. It kept hitting me and all that other stupid shit.
It did go on for a bit.
Yeah, if she just said I couldn't reach the pedals, it'd been like, haha, she's shorter. But instead, she'd be like, it kept hitting me in my ankles or whatever. Yeah, like they just like, bury it.
Yeah, it was too much of a story
behind it. But I laugh
behind
like Kevin James because I'm not getting on another 4-person bike with you. You don't pedal.
That part I thought was funny.
Yeah,
I thought
like
even
simple,
it could have just
quick.
it could have ended there. It didn't even need her reply that she was too short. But yeah, a condensed version of her response would have been fine. But then Kevin does say that him and Karen are going to dinner that night and that the 2 of them can join them. And right as Beth's leaving the office, that's when Catherine enters. And as soon as she walks in, she notices like this photo of Kevin from 1994 and makes a joke that are like, oh, from when you were one of the Mario brothers, because he had a mustache in the picture. And Kevin reflects on that race like a little bit, but essentially that was just an icebreaker because she was just looking to start conversation. Catherine wants to address like the situation with being the new boss and that it's kind of awkward or whatever, and Kevin kind of shrugs it off like, it's not really a big deal, and he takes her for a tour around the shop. And as they're going to start the tour, we cut to Chuck and Amir, and Amir was running some sort of a long report for something that wasn't actually necessary, and it was just because Chuck was trying to get rid of him because he was done hearing about him and his wife arguing over duvet covers.
Again, another weird, like, what are they going for here, joke?
It was the shams.
Yeah, they just have these jokes that it was like they have a book of jokes and they're just trying to inject them into.
It's just like an algorithm writing these things. Netflix does not care.
It's like line joke, line joke.
There's nothing of substance.
And during that's kind of when they cross paths. They show them, and then Kevin and Catherine walk into the area, and they all get to chatting.
This is also where they show the shop, like you had mentioned, which really threw me off because I never thought of it before, but it makes total sense. This is like a big operation. There's like an accounting team, and there's engineers, and
it's like a sports team. Having a race team is no different than like owning the Red Sox or something like that.
Right, and that makes total sense when someone says that to you, but in my head I was like, oh, it's like a garage and it's all more utilitarian, right? So working on the car, people working on this and that. And then you see it and you're like, oh, of course, there has to be like, this is a corporation, this is a business.
Yeah, it's a NASCAR. It's like the top of the top. Like Jay said, it's a professional sports team.
Yeah,
maybe it's just the ignorance of not knowing much about it. I just don't think about it that way.
They don't really get into it in this because it appears to only be one driver, but like a race, like what's the name of the guy who's retiring? Spencer Racing. Like there could be 7 drivers under Spencer Racing. They'll race against each other still, but they'll all be under the same thing. So yeah, it is like a big thing.
Yeah, there's like a race team, not just
like Ricky Bobby and Dale.
Well, even like sometimes in the Olympics, like there'll be like one of the swimming competitions. There might be 2 people representing the U.S. in that same race,
but one's probably a commie
secretly.
Yes, he really.
Duh.
But so this is when they're all chatting and they're looking for the best way to increase production, and Chuck's joking like the best way is to cheat, and Catherine plays along a little bit, but then she can't tell if Chuck's kidding anymore, and they keep back and forth. And I think this is yet another case, Ferg, where the joke went on really long.
Yeah, this is just like beat the dead horse. You beat the dead horse.
First he's winking and he's like, "Yeah, I totally get what you're saying," and it's just like 3 or 4 different times they cut back and forth with the same one joke.
One beat
Yeah, it's
would've
like
done
after the wink, you could have just ended that and have her just say, "We're not cheating."
Exit scene. Like,
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not going to cheat, right? Yes. On to the next thing. Why are we dragging this shit out?
Yep. So Catherine and Kevin head back to the office, and now she's like kind of breaking down numbers. So you do see that she's done her homework. She knows what she's talking about. She's just not the boss's daughter who's getting the job. She knows what's going on. She knows all the ins and outs about this place. And she said that they only got 2 top 10 wins this year. And to which I, not knowing anything about NASCAR, thought, how many races are there? Nick, can you shed any light on that? Do you know roughly how many
I'm not
races
sure. They
are
do
there?
one a week for most of the. Hold on.
Because I was like 2 top 10 races. That doesn't seem that bad. And I
Like,
so
two
I don't
seems
know.
like a good number.
36 of them.
36. Okay.
And
so
how many
that's not
how
good.
many cars are involved in a typical race?
it's like
Like
50,
40
right?
something, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, because I wasn't sure
two
if
top 10
how good
finishes is
top
good.
10 is. So that's
And
pretty
there's
good.
there's even more cars than that because you have to qualify for each NASCAR race.
Right.
Like you're not just like a professional driver and you get plugged into the Daytona 500. You have to
Right.
meet the qualifying time.
So my head though when they said this thing was just I don't know how many races there are in a year. So 2 top 10 finishes to me could have been great because for all I knew there could have been 6 races all year. So I was like,
Right.
oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah, no, they go every Sunday for most of the year.
Oh, okay.
But it's played in seasons, right?
Yeah, they changed that. Like, there's not like a break in the season. It's just the way I don't know exactly. They updated the way points are scored so you can finish first in that season and then it kind of resets. Nothing changes. You're still racing every week, but the season will restart.
Okay.
And then it goes by like how many seasons you were first or whatever place you were in. It's confusing.
I lost interest because I watched a couple, like maybe a year or two when I was younger, and when they started doing like the chase for the cup and the weird playoff system, I just could not wrap my head around it because why would you have a playoff with 40 different cars? Like if it's a playoff, it should just be those top 10
but it
racers.
did. Right. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. They needed to add a layer.
Yeah, like I mean, you needed to add that this is the championship, this is the top 10 people, and only they're going, which would be kind of cool to see because that would be cool to see, right? Like, I don't know.
No.
It's just me.
Maybe we should race to the end of this conversation and get on to the next topic.
So yeah, because she's going through all the numbers, but she says that they need to operate a little bit more like Silicon Valley. That's where she came from. And that was spend money, like bring in the best people and like make moves to get attention. And Kevin's insisting that they already have the best people. So, she just she's making it very clear. She'll do what she has to do to win. And if it means replacing somebody on the team, then she will do that. So it kind of puts to reality the fears that him and Beth had earlier. So transitioning from that, we get to the next scene where we see like Kevin at a bar and he like punches one of those like punching bag video game things where like, the harder you hit it, the higher number you get.
Those are rigged, right? There's no way.
Yeah. So I was going to say like, so I remember there was a night where like I like topped out the machine. And I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way because there were people that I know were stronger than me hitting it that didn't score as high. So it's all like, technique and where
It's all
you hit
angle
it on
and
that bag.
technique, yeah.
Because like I'm not delusional enough to think I was like actually the strongest man in the bar that night.
Yeah, or it's like every 50th one does higher than this or something. There's got to be like
I'm sure there's an element of that.
Yeah,
but,
there's like a strategy, not a strategy, but like a system in place for it.
right.
It can't be rigged, though. You'd be able to test that really easily, and then no one would play.
People who play those games though, they're like drunk or children, like so no one really
True.
pays attention. But yeah, so Beth sees him hit the thing and notes that the last time he scored that high of a score, which was over 900, was when Jeff Gordon stole his scooter, which he reminds her was a dirt bike, not a scooter.
And this is the first time you see that they have a little bit of chemistry, that she may be into him.
A little bit. Well, but and also this is when we see that apparently punching this thing is his like coping mechanism. Like every time he's ever been upset, he runs to the bar and punches this electronic video game.
You think they'd get one for the garage?
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier than going to the bar each time. So they're both nervous that Catherine's going to fire everybody. And he talks about the Sinclair team, which is a different race team that existed before this show takes place. And a new owner came in. He kicked everyone out who knew anything about what was going on with racing. And now it's the Dunkin Donuts. Here's the Dunkin Donuts, like big plug. And then she just goes, have you tried the Coffee Coolatta? And he's like, it's amazing. amazing.
And also, it's not. They're terrible.
No. So here's my thing with this scene, okay? First off, the way that this line works isn't by mentioning the Coffee Coolatta, because I looked it up. The Coffee Coolatta has been around since 1994.
Yep.
If you go to Dunkin Donuts, you've had a Coffee Coolatta by now.
Yeah.
Coffee Coollattas have existed for a long time.
I didn't know they've been around for that long, though.
Yeah,
That's
I knew it
crazy.
was. My earliest memory of having one, I was like probably like 12. So we're talking right there. It's 20 something years. So I knew they'd been around a while.
Didn't we all used to get it like in half days?
I was crushing Italian subs.
Yeah, but like they've been around a long time, regardless. So the point is,
the more modern was the flavor one, right? Like the lemonade Coolatta.
The fruit
and stuff.
Coolatta.
That would have been
Yeah.
like in high school.
but the thing was, like for me with this joke was, if you were gonna do something, like why not be like, have you tried the new like pumpkin like whatever the seasonal item or a new item on the thing was?
Yeah.
For that joke to hit, it had to be like, have you tried this new thing? Which would
You know
still be
what
the
it-
product placement.
You know what it was Kevin James thought the word Coolatta was funny. That was the joke.
Yeah.
Probably 1,000%.
Because that was my thing, was the Coolatta is such like a, like, why would you, no two people would talk about that item like it was new.
No.
That would be like, yeah, and it changed to a McDonald's, and then she could be like, have you ever had a Big Mac? Like, like it just doesn't work. It's too common of an item to act like no one's ever had it.
So this is where my problem with the show came in, because on my notes here, there was at least 6 different product placements all
over
throughout
it.
the episodes. You had NASCAR, you had Xfinity, Budweiser, Stella Artois, Apple, and then Dunkin Donuts.
But
Kodak.
that's NASCAR. They get sponsored
Exactly.
by things.
Yeah,
no,
it
I
makes
get
sense
that,
because
but
of NASCAR.
when you, I completely understand that. That's the way NASCAR works. However, a television show, like when she was, I don't think we got to where The Office is, where all the Apple computers are just lined up in angles so that you can see that they're all iMacs. That doesn't happen in a normal office.
That's like part of the thing is like Netflix got paid more money from Xfinity, Apple,
Oh, yeah.
than this show was ever gonna be worth, right?
Yeah.
So they pumped out the season, they profited, and see you later. Like it's crazy how that's just becoming a standard. We'll make a shit show, we'll make a ton of money off of it. Doesn't matter if it's good, and then see you later. And that standard is like dangerous. It's dangerous to
thing
go
is-
down. Yeah.
And because it exists forever, people will find it for years. It's going to be
Yeah.
on Netflix for years. People will watch this 10 years from now. You know what I
But
mean?
it
They have
doesn't matter
keep
to them
making-
because it doesn't like reflect on Netflix, because their business model isn't about just creating the best original content. It's a big help as they've produced so many big things, but it's just having a lot of content. It's just having the convenience. Like Netflix is its own thing. They're not reliant on having good programming that's original.
They just
It
need
helps.
programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just need programming to say we have 100,000 hours worth of content for you to watch.
Right.
Yeah,
If you're
Kevin
HBO
James' name,
and you
like-
mess up show after show after show, then you're gonna sink for a while. But like Netflix, they're good. That's not like their bread and butter is just original sitcoms.
Sure. So, I mean, for every show, though, for every comedy that Netflix produces, it seems that it kind of bombs. But then you have something like Squid Game, or you have something like Tiger King.
Yeah,
Well, if you throw enough stuff at the wall, right, something sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, they don't care because what they hit on, they do very well.
yeah. But
And
a
what
show
they
like
miss-
this, especially when we talk about like a lighthearted sitcom with a lot of product placement put in there, that's paying for all of this to happen.
Yes.
So it's zero risk. They put it out. It's not like you're using a time slot. You're just pumping it out with the rest of your content. So if people watch it, awesome. If people don't watch it, well, Dunkin' Donuts
money.
paid for it. So it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
it's no
They're
loss.
not losing money at all.
Yeah. If it doesn't succeed, it just exists in the space. It doesn't take away from anything else they have. So it's
you
fine.
would think they'd need some quality though, or they'll lose said sponsor, and then Dunkin' Donuts won't pay for it.
But then again,
They're
too, like
one-offs,
I
though.
said, with the Squid Games and with the Tiger Kings and what was that, to Making a Murderer, with those, that's where they hit. And
Those
that's
are all
what
pre-existing shows they bought though.
A lot of them.
Netflix
Tiger
made
King
this
was not.
show.
That was their own.
Tiger King, I think they might have created. I don't
Squid
recall
Game
that.
already existed.
Actually, no, because Tiger King, not to get in too much of a tangent because we've done a lot of that this episode, but a lot of that footage and stuff had been existing for years building into the creation of the actual documentary too. So something was in the horizon with all that footage.
Sure, I mean that was the point of it, but Netflix is the one that shot it to the stratosphere.
Yeah, well,
Same-
it was pitched to them and then they bought it. And
But it
made
easily could have been Hulu or HBO Max
Yeah.
or somebody else.
That was also the product of at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah,
That's
sure,
true.
for sure.
I don't think that would have done nearly as well if it wasn't especially because that was like a, hey, watch this for a week. And we all just heard we're going to be inside for 2 weeks. And we thought that was it. And it was like, well, this will kill some time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, what about the Aaron Hernandez documentary they did too? Like, you know, like there's no Dunkin'
haven't
Donuts
seen that one.
sponsors in there.
Right.
That was really good. You should watch that.
So moving forward, though, before we get too far into this. So from that scene with the Dunkin' Donuts product placement, they then moved to sit at the bar. And this was like the most awkward joke. So now they continue to talk, and they were talking about, well, what if it's not us who gets fired? What if we kind of, almost in a way, like have a sacrificial lamb, right? Someone to kind of throw to the wolves to get rid of instead. Like, who is it we don't like? And Kevin's like, how about Carl? And she's like, who's Carl? Oh, you know, the accountant. His name's Bill. Carl's his dead brother. And I'm like, what the fuck? What? And like, it still got that
joke.
It still got that canned laughter, but people are like, ha 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 ha. Like, what are you supposed to do there with that? Like, why would you say that? And then they had to follow it up with the button on the joke, which is like, oh, well, I wish I could take that birthday card back. Like, come on.
The dark humor.
But it's not like it didn't work there. It was just the wrong way to go about it. Not dead brother. That's just too morbid. It could have been like, oh, Carl? No, his name's Bill. Carl's the guy his wife left him for. Like something like that would be easier to swallow.
Not to go so dark and be like, it's his dead fucking brother. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, like, come on.
But again, that's this kind of show where it's like, hey, we're going to make a bunch of weird veiled gay jokes and then make a bunch of like, hey, I'm a fat guy jokes and then make a joke about a guy's dead brother. You're like, where are you going with this?
It's an Adam Sandler production.
They just have a bunch of jokes like in a bucket that they just reach in the bucket of jokes and they're like, where do we put this in? And a lot of that kept happening. And then as they're talking about Carl, the dead brother, the bartender just gives them both 2 Bud Heavies each without them ordering anything. And I was like, what? And it wasn't even like a matter of it being like their go-to order. It was just an unspoken, he hands them the beers with no order. And I think it was because they were both supposed to double date. But the bartender doesn't know that. There was no communication there.
I'm like, I feel like everybody, I don't know if everybody here has this, but like, I don't know, we had one bar where they went to all the time pre-pandemic where we walked in, they had put 2 High Life down. Like, because it was the bar we always went to.
Yeah, because you're like the regulars or whatever.
Yeah,
and
you become like a Cheersian type of thing or whatever, right? But
that'd be cool until the one day you want something else.
That happened to me at Dunkin' Donuts years ago, like, because the guy was so used to my order.
Joe walks in and everybody goes, Dave!
How dare you?
So I think the one thing that would have fixed that, though, would have been, even if, as they approached the bar, if, like, there was just even a quick eye exchange between the bartender and, like, Kevin or Beth, and, like, they just kind of, like, nodded their head and, like, rose, like, 2 fingers up or something, just to, like, signify that there was some sort of acknowledgement that they were going to order drinks, other than this, like, they motion to the seats, they sit down, and then the bartender just plops 4 Bud Heavies in front of them, which is another, did we even put that on our list of product placement? I think we mentioned it before.
Yeah. You know what I found weird about this whole scene is, like, the dates weren't there. And, like, later you find out that, like, once they leave, they left the dates behind. Why wouldn't they show the dates?
Well, it was about Kevin. I mean, that'll come up later. It was about Kevin's date more than anything else. And
I get that, but why not have them there? And then that would have explained that the beer being there. Or she could have even just been in the beginning and went to the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah,
but you never see them to even realize that they leave them there. Like,
yeah,
and they never address her guy Frank at all at that point either. It was like, so that was like forgotten.
Yeah, you don't see him, and unfortunately that bar does not serve Coolattas.
But yeah, so as they're sitting there with their 4 beers, she asks about Karen, and that's him mentioning that he decides to mention that, oh, by the way, did I mention I'm in Big Brother now? And he's not actually in Big Brother, but he told Karen that he is, so now he needs Beth to be aware of that so she doesn't blow up his spot. And they talk about, what was it, Hector?
Yeah, little Hector. Asthmatic Hector.
Yeah, he's asthmatic and has like stuffed owls.
I appreciate this because this is a real good throwback 80s sitcom plot where it's like, I told this girl this one thing, and now I'm going on a date with another girl and her at the same time. Like, it just falls into the perfect like shitty 80s sitcom plot
Oh,
line.
the two dates at once trope.
Yeah, like it seems like it would fit very well in that.
But as they're sitting there talking, Jake calls Kevin and he's like upset. And all we know is it's about an Instagram story at that point. And Kevin doesn't even know what an Instagram story is. So Beth describes it as a post that's not quite good enough for like the main feed, which is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But again, though, more Instagram talk, like more.
Yeah, it was the second time
modern,
Instagram got mentioned on the.
I was gonna say
on
that's
the
already
show.
dated because a lot more people use the story than us now. Because a lot of people put like TikToks and shit in it and all that. We use it for the podcast. It's like,
Which you can find at S1E1 Pod on Instagram.
I know what they're saying. The story people didn't use a lot early, but now I really do. I check the stories all the time now.
Yeah. And so they need to go head to him ASAP over whatever's going on. And then it goes back to, do we have time for Coolattas? And it was like, no, we don't have any time. And then the next scene, they show up with Coolattas in their hand.
I almost threw my remote through the TV at this point. Like I was so.
That was a little
Yeah.
cringy.
You know what's funny too is they used, like, as far as I could tell, actual Coolattas, because if you watch that cup in Kevin James' hand, he's soaked. It's like an actual cold condensating cup, and the table has a puddle on it. His hand is all wet. I'm like, why didn't they just put some fucking warm coffee in a cup? I don't think he sips it once.
I kind of wish he just had a Boston accent and he showed up and it was also inside of a styrofoam white Dunkin Donuts cup outside
Yeah.
of it. Just real shitty Boston.
Yeah,
How
so
dare you.
they show up and Jake shows Beth his phone. And you can see that Catherine was out to lunch with a different driver. It was like some female driver, Jessie De La Cruz. And the other racer actually tags Jake in the photo so to make sure he would see it, which is obviously an unnecessarily dickish move, right?
But then he even calls out, he's like, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, but that's because he's a dummy. And that's the thing with that part too. He's like, oh, it was a good move. Like I would have did that myself. But he's just dumb. And like he should be hurt, but he's like giddy about it even when he explains the burn on him.
Well, he wasn't taught to be totally at peace when he was training with the Tibetan monkeys.
Yes, so that was because of his big bracelet that he has, right? The like it was,
Monkey
what was it,
bracelet.
beads? Yeah.
Who
yeah.
wrote this joke? And then who agreed to this joke? Nick.
Kevin James. And
Yeah,
Kevin
so
James.
A bunch of manatees with
Yeah, so for those of you who have not watched along with us, the Tibetan monkeys is who he assumed made his bracelet because he thinks that monks is short for monkeys. So yeah, he thinks monk is short for monkeys and explains it like, yes, my name's Jacob, but you call me Jake. And monkey is, monk.
There was a room full of writers. And everyone was like, gold. Quit drilling, you struck oil. How?
And that was the thing. It's like there's points where he says things that make sense. And then there's times where he's just so dumb that it's uncomprehendable.
It's one of those things where like they try to make a character like a dummy or whatever, but then they go so far where you're like, this dude shouldn't be able to drive a car or talk to people. Like he's either that dumb that he can't get through life or he's not. Like you can't.
Because the thing is, right before him referring to monks as monkeys, like the thing he said right before that was like sound logic. He was talking about how he needs to quit the team because he knows that Catherine's going to fire him over this other girl to take over his spot. So he needs to quit so it doesn't get around in the community that he was replaced by someone better. So, because then he's damaged goods, which is like makes sense and like a logical, like, yeah, like he was thinking like and plotting and trying to be a step ahead. And then a moment later refers to monks as monkeys. Like, come on, like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Can't have it both ways.
It's rough.
So then Catherine does enter and they ask her about lunch and she immediately denies it. And then they show her the picture and she admits it. And it was, did this other racer, Jessie, did she not tag Catherine? Because she goes out of her way to tag Jake, but not the person in the photo with her. And even then, like she's unaware that this photo even got posted. Because you would think if she's this like popular race car driver, she probably has more than, a couple hundred followers on Instagram. So, you'd think word would have got out if the owner of another racing company and her were seen together at lunch.
Well, not only that, but she went out to lunch with her, and you would think that if they're friendly, you'd follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, unless you're trying to be secretive. But even then, like you think just the word would get out because it's a big deal for a big racer to be with the owner of another company that, you might be changing teams.
Don't forget though, it's only her second day, so she's like a nobody. So people wouldn't know to follow her specifically.
That's a good call. Yeah, she's not like a big wig in the industry yet.
But then again, I'm giving the writing too much credit.
That's also true.
And at this point, Catherine does admit that she is going to give or intends to give the seat to Jesse, and Jake's going to be without a job, basically.
I'm on her side, by the way. Replace this idiot.
So that's when Kevin said to her that you said you weren't going to do any big changes, and now you're doing this big move before the paint is even dry in your parking spot. And then she's like, was that you who drove over it? Like this is very Netflixy joke, the delivery, all that. And
unnecessary.
Yeah, I just didn't need to be like, it's a serious moment. Like, you're firing this kid, and it's like, did you drive over my parking spot when the paint was wet? And then they get back into it, and she's talking about how like there were 3 races that he didn't even finish, and Kevin's still defending him. And like, we're a team. Like, he doesn't lose these races alone. If he loses, we all lost. And she's going over each instances, and he has legitimate excuses for like 2 of them as to why the race was lost and it wasn't his fault. And then the third one, which I believe was Richmond, was because she's like that. He's like, that one was on Jesse. Not Jesse, I'm sorry, Jake. That one was on Jake because apparently he got distracted looking at the clouds and one of them looked like Abraham Lincoln. And the audience thought this was hilarious. And then during that, Jake like motions his hands like to signify like the top hat that Abe Lincoln wears.
Just the stovepipe
And the
hat.
audience fucking lost it. They thought that was like the funniest thing. It was the loudest laugh that the entire episode got.
This can't be a real audience, right?
This has to be canned, yeah.
Yeah. That's a canned laughter, too. So
Because,
Netflix was like, we decide this is funny. Like,
Yeah, because they
People
went
laugh at this.
It was hysterical that this kid was pantomiming a top hat. Like,
I also thought Kevin James' joke about it was funnier when he goes, yeah, he had the mole and everything. It was crazy.
that's like I said before. He has this good way of like doing this like little like
Quickly getting
under
through
his breath
something,
like throwing in that like extra joke into it. Like he's good with that.
He's good and he knows what he's in and he's trying to just move it along.
Yeah. And so now Kevin's solution to this is that the 2 of them should have a 1-lap race to decide who's going to be the driver for the team now, which Jake agrees to, but he says if he loses, he wants to make it known that he's already quit. And that was the button on that one. We get to the next scene where they're now at the racetrack and Kevin asks Chuck about the car and Chuck's like, you always ask about the car. Why don't you ask about me ever? And then he's like, you're right. Chuck, how are you? He's like, oh, same old, same old. Again, very, very Netflixy, goofy joke.
Yeah, but I liked that joke though.
I like that joke.
Yeah,
I like Chuck.
I didn't like that one.
Yeah, I like Chuck and I like that because that seemed like, I don't know, more realistic. And he wasn't like, my wife posted on Instagram yesterday. Like he just made a joke about life with a real person. So even if the bar is not, the bar's much lower,
I think it was like the punchline was fine. It was like the lead up. The way they set up the joke didn't work for me at all. But hey.
Well, they didn't beat that one like a dead horse.
Yeah,
I agree. The setup, a lot of the jokes on this show are ass. Like they're just forced like in. Like
how come no one said Ascar yet? I'm really mad that no one has said Ascar.
We're waiting.
Now you did.
Yeah,
you're our pun guy.
So now we get we meet Jessie for the first time. She rides up on a motorcycle, and they have I don't know how old she is.
She's got to be like 16, right? Who just whistle.
She's a professional driver.
Yeah. Well, in the show she plays.
Hey,
19.
you know it wasn't me. I can't whistle.
Yeah. You can't whistle?
Barely. I can get like a woo, but I can't like do a long.
Do it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a whistle. I'd call that a
That's
whistle.
a whistle.
I can't do a long one. I watched a YouTube video to try to learn how to do this one, and no matter what I did exactly what they did. Nothing.
I'm trying to remember what was the show or movie where someone was trying to teach someone how to whistle and it was like put your lips together and blow. I don't remember what that is now. It's gonna bother me.
That's a movie. It sounds like you watched alone in the dark.
This is I swear. Oh man, it's gonna bother me.
But it also starts with the girl showing up on a motorcycle at a raceway.
Yeah. So she shows up and she has a little bit of an exchange with Jake, and it was more like she was like in his head already, right? He's like, oh, good luck, and she's like, I'm already in your head, and she just like they're gonna decide who's gonna go first, and it's supposed to be a coin flip, and she's like, I'm going first, and she just jumps straight into the car.
Yeah, she's super cocky,
and we see her take her lap, and she has a pretty good time.
Does she do 29.3 seconds flat? Or that's not flat, right? Because it's 0.3, but 29.3 seconds, and she's going 161 miles an hour, I believe.
Yes. And while she's racing, there was like the shot of her actually in the car. Like it was fine, but for some reason it looked really cheesy to me. But I was trying to like, even to myself, I'm like, how could they have done this better? And I couldn't really think of anything. So maybe I was being a little too nitpicky there.
At least show a car going around the track.
Well, it's a solo track. She's alone. The whole idea is that they're showing up at night.
Right.
No
I want
racing.
an external shot of a car driving, is what I'm saying.
I'm with Nick versus a static shot of her inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that with both of them. And while she's going around too, Jake's under the impression that Jesse's into him. And that was she's into you like a shark's into a baby seal. That was the retort for that one.
Didn't really land.
No. And so now she finishes. It's Jake's turn. He goes to jump in the car the same way. Can't get in. Kevin goes in and like helps shove his leg in. And it was like, oh, she did it. She made it look so easy. But it's like, you're a race car driver. That's how you get in the car. Right?
Yeah, that was weird.
You've done this plenty. So the idea that like you saw her do it and you're trying to emulate it isn't what's happening, because part of your job is to jump in cars like that every day.
Yeah, the frame is one piece, right? There's no doors that open.
Yeah, you have to jump in that way.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
It's just
I think it's safer.
It's also not part of, like, that comes off the frame very easily. So if it was a door, it would be tougher to do that.
Okay.
And there's a roll cage where you would, in between you and where the door would be.
Right, protection for like crashing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the few times in the episode too where I genuinely laughed, which is where they're tracking his race and the guy Amit looks to the girl and he's like, "It's gonna be really nice working with you." I don't know why they laughed really hard.
Well, she won't make fun of him for liking Hamilton.
That's true.
So Jake's doing his lap, and at first he was a little bit behind, but it looked like he picked up time and had...
No, he was behind on the first lap.
The first turn.
It wasn't a lap. It was the thing where they do the pickup speed. They were only doing one lap.
At first he was a little behind, but then he ended up catching up and did officially win the race, right? The way it worked out.
Yeah, by a full second.
Yeah, but then immediately goes to celebrate, and his monk beads... break.
Monkey beats.
This caught me when he just threw his hand up and the thing exploded. I actually laughed. I thought that was funny for some reason.
No, that one got me too.
And then he crashed the car as a result. So I was kind of confused with how that ended off. Like, was he fired by
like
default?
technically he won, but
he won
then he
the
crashed
race.
the car.
And I felt like it wasn't addressed clearly enough to end the episode because I didn't know where they ended off with that.
He won.
When you it's not like you blow out a tire on like a Honda Civic, right? When you crash one of those cars, it is very expensive to continually have to fix it to get the decals put back on.
But he still won the bet technically, right? So
he did, but I imagine
bet's a bet.
Girl, I mean, a bet is a bet, but she probably should have fired him for continually costing them that much money.
So then the next scene is Beth and Kevin walk back into the shop where they see Karen, Kevin's date that he completely forgot about, sitting there, and he forgot that he left her all alone at the restaurant. And then Kevin just starts like mumbling on about jalapeno poppers for like a few minutes, like because he doesn't know what to say to her.
This was super weird. Like
the jalapeno popper thing, or
no, the fact that she showed up to break up with him
at his job, like not at the restaurant. Yeah, like she like
text him like, "See you later, I'm done."
And
like that's just so
that,
weird.
Because the way it played was like she wasn't even angry.
And neither was he.
Yeah, like she was like, because he's like, "I'm so sorry, you know, I'll explain the whole story if you forgive me." And she's like, "I forgive you, like but I still have to break up with you."
That's another thing I don't get it, because they didn't show her at the beginning. It was all via text. You don't see her on the date. She's not there. So why pay this actress to come in for that when he could have got a text and go, "Oh,
maybe she comes back."
I don't remember.
I watched it all when it came out. I don't recall that, but I could be wrong.
I understand like her sentiment there, and she made a sound point, and it was just to kind of drive in how obsessed he is with work. But yeah, they could have used her at different points of the episode. And again, we've talked about this before in other shows. It was just sloppy writing, and it they didn't think it through enough. They could have used her earlier in the episode. She could have showed up to his work and like gave him lunch one day, and that's how Beth found out that he had a girlfriend instead of just seeing his phone ring and picking it up or whatever.
But I guess her coming back is a way for her to give him the seal to bring that joke back. That's them liking that Hector joke so much that they wanted to pay it off.
Owl.
Yeah.
Owl.
That's a good point.
Sorry, the
But
owl.
but that's fine. You could do that, but you could have introduced the character earlier so it means more when they break up because you've never met her before.
Yeah, they're paying her either way. Get more scenes with her in it.
But it closes out with before she leaves, she gives him a stuffed owl to give to Hector. So
that was the first like smart joke.
That one I thought was a good callback. I like a good callback. That one I thought was good. And then from there, we see later in the night, Kevin's just sitting like alone in his office, and he's watching like an old race on TV. And Beth walks in, and they start talking about how like essentially how it's all over with Karen now. And he admits that like Karen's right. Like he does acknowledge that he cares too much about like the team and like this whole like the race company. And Beth's answer is like, maybe you just need to find a girl that cares about the team as much as you do. And he's like, well, that limits it down to about none. And she's like, well, not necessarily. Or she said like, I don't know about that.
Or it wasn't something even like I can think of one. It was something really over the top, like over the top obvious.
She said, I don't know about that. That was a direct quote actually. But that was the first time that I thought, because I thought they did a good job of not planting seeds that they were trying to get the two of them together, even though it was like kind of the logical thing early on. That was the first time you saw anything like flirtatious between them, even though he was oblivious to it.
Yeah, I took her as the annoying sidekick more than the love interest.
But my thing there was, doesn't she have a boyfriend? Wasn't that already established? She wanted to go on double dates with him.
But maybe that was all a lie.
No, Frank.
But it might be a lie, like trying to be dating him anymore, right? They may have broken up and she's
Frank's in for a surprise.
Maybe that's why Frank wasn't there at the date earlier.
Maybe she's not being frank enough with him about this.
Yes. And then, so he offers to let her sit. He's oblivious to the fact that she's just putting it out there that she likes him, but he offers to let her sit there and watch the race with her, and she agrees and sits down. And then after about a half a second, she's like, how much time's left in this race? Oh, about 2.5 hours. And she's like, nope. And she just gets up and leaves. And that was the end of the episode. It was kind of I don't know, not that it was an awkward finish, but it was like a weird, for so many over the top jokes, that one was just like a little low key to end on.
Well, here's the thing. That's a weird end to an episode in a different world we used to live in, where TV shows were weekly episodic. This is a streaming TV show where 2 seconds after the show,
the next episode starts playing immediately.
It says 2, 3, 1 next episode, and you're right back in it. They don't even give time to like get up and get a drink or something. So
yeah, it's a good point.
I would agree that in a different scenario, that's a terrible way to end a show. But TV shows now aren't 10 half-an-hour episodes. They're 1 5-hour movie. And,
that's true.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, so that was it. That's the entirety of The Crew. The episode that was titled, I Guess That Cake Did Need to Be Refrigerated. So yeah, before we get into the green light or cancel, I mean, what do you guys have to say about the show as a whole? I mean, any comments in general? We kind of got into it. We went pretty deep in this episode, but
I don't know, man. It honks. That's what I'll say. Like most cars, this show honks.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in past episodes, and for those of you who haven't listened yet, I would encourage you to listen to episodes like Country Comfort or The Big Show that we've done in the past that were also Netflix original sitcoms, but they're very formulaic. They tend to do the same things. The comedy stylized the same. The joke placement's the same. The look is the same. The way they're shot is the same. They just kind of keep pumping these shows out.
What do you mean? There wasn't no giant Maddie in this episode.
Yeah.
On The Big Show.
That's Kevin James' mama's guitar.
It's almost like they run like the script or something through like an AI.
Yeah.
Like machine.
It's
like
so
Nick said, it's an algorithm.
It's like literally just a Mad Lib. They just insert adjective here, blah, 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 and like that's how it goes.
Social media site.
Yeah, right.
And the thing is, like,
website,
there's in a way, a lot of sitcoms, even a lot of classic sitcoms, there's a lot of like, you know, classic, typical things that are themes from show to show, and there's a lot of like, there is a little bit of a formula as to how these things go. But obviously, we all love sitcoms. There's a reason we do this show. When it's done right, it's right, and it's good. And you don't have to overthink it. And it doesn't have to be like breaking the mold and doing something super innovative. You can kind of do all the typical things, but the writing has to be there. The acting has to be there. All these things have to kind of click.
Yeah.
And these Netflix shows, they're just so pump them out, get them ready. We need 4 new sitcoms for this quarter. And they grab whatever actor, they pump them X amount of dollars, they bring them in, they get the cast ready, the sets are done, boom, boom, boom. Let's film them. Well, we're going to film the entire season in a week. And then the show comes out, and that's how these things go. And it looks it. I mean, you can see there's no like care behind it. There's not like this like craft behind creating these shows.
This should have been a slam dunk. I mean, usually occupation like sitcoms are pretty good. Like they're at a certain job, you get to know the people there, and it's such a lazy way of doing things. It just ruined it. Good cast too. Trash.
Yeah, and Nick, I think it was you who said it earlier. Like, I'm not the biggest Kevin James guy, but like I acknowledge when he's like decent and like he can act in the right circumstances. I think this guy he does not say no. He just doesn't say no to roles.
I mean, he probably got paid a fuckload of money to do this.
Oh, I get it.
I mean, like, how do you not say no? Like, we'll give you $100 million to do this fucking
again.
10
He's
episode,
under that
whatever.
Adam Sandler Netflix money tree too. So like, you know, they pitched him the show and who knows? Maybe he's like passionate about NASCAR and he's wanted to do something NASCAR related for a while. You never know, but
I mean, for every day we wake up and go, ugh, I don't want to go to work. He wakes up and somebody goes, hey, flatbed truck full of money's here. You're a race car driver chief now, and you have to talk about Coolattas. And he's like, oh, sure, why not? Like, you know what I mean?
Cool.
Like, it's hard to say no to that.
Just let me know when to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Kevin James, here's your money. Now you're gonna get kicked by a CGI ostrich.
and he's not the kind of actor that has like a diehard fan base that's gonna be like, you sold out. Like that's his audience is his audience, and they know who Kevin James is.
And to be fair, I'd like to say that I'm partially Kevin James' audience. I really like Kevin James. I watched all of King of Queens this year, happily. I've seen Here Comes the Boom on purpose. I rented Paul Blart Mall Cop Part 2.
I weirdly like that movie.
Paul Blart Mall Cop wasn't bad.
Part 1 is good.
Like
Part 2 is pretty rough,
wasn't
though.
bad.
The second one's not very good. I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry is an odd movie to watch, an odd movie to make. But I watched it. Even like I like Kevin James. I haven't seen The Zookeeper though. Maybe that'll change things.
It
But
was
at this point,
That's my breaking point.
That'll break you. It's bad.
enough. But yeah, so we've I think we've exhausted everything we could talk about with this episode. I'm gonna guess again. I think I know how a lot of people are going with this one, but for the sake of it, green light or cancel. Gordo, starting with you.
With that smirk on his face.
He did. Before he even answers, I want to preface this by
I know where this
he
is
was the
going.
one person to greenlight The Big Show, which is the last Netflix comedy that we did.
When I saw it was 29, after I saw the intro and I saw that it was like 29 minutes and 37 seconds, I clocked out. This is a cancel for me.
Ooh, okay.
Didn't see it going that way.
It was too long. Everything was just, we've beaten the dead horse with how all the bad points of the show. I will agree that I don't think Kevin James was bad in this show at all. I think he was the only good part. It's just everything else was just trash. No, cancel.
Joe, go ahead.
I think Gordo just hit on a really important point that nobody has mentioned yet. This episode was almost exactly a half an hour long, which is maybe 8 minutes too long for a sitcom like this. And you felt a lot of it. If they eliminated maybe a few Dunkin Donuts and Instagram jokes and kept this thing at 22 minutes, it might not have hurt so much. I love Kevin James. It's a pretty decent cast. And Kevin James is good in this, despite what he's stuck with. But this is just an awful, awful show. That said, I did watch all of it when it came out. And if there was a second season, I'd probably watch that too. But there's no way I, in good conscience, can give this a green light. So it's definitely a cancel.
Nick.
I kind of wish I could yellow light this show if it were possible. Every point that was made as far as all the negative aspects are all on point. However, I did not hate this show as much as I feel like I wanted to hate this show. Kevin James did a great job. I think the supporting cast, with exception to Jake, the driver, I didn't like his character at all. I think the rest of the ensemble was actually entertaining. And contrary to your point, Jay, as far as the Netflix production quality goes, I think this was one of the better ones. Ignoring the fact that it wasn't, they didn't have any like exterior driving shots for a show about NASCAR, which I thought was really strange. There is something about this show that I actually did want to keep watching. I have to greenlight this show just off my raw feelings about it alone. I can't cancel it. I don't know why, but I can't.
I said it at the top of the episode. It's because you're our resident NASCAR guy.
No, it has nothing to do with the NASCAR. There's something about it that I enjoyed. And as much as I would love, as far as all the shitty Netflix shows we've done go, this is in that barrel with them, right? But I think it's at the top of it. It's not as bad as those. And I attribute that to the acting, I think, because they made shitty writing good. And I think, you guys have seen it, but I think as it goes on, depending on the story and stuff like that, I think it could be an okay watch. And I can't cancel it.
Ferg.
This show's a dumpster fire. I hate everything about it, other than Kevin James and Chuck. I will never watch it again. I have had to watch it twice. Big fat cancel for me. Nothing else to say about it.
All right. So for me, before I get into how I'm going, I want to comment on a couple things you guys said earlier, but I didn't want to cut you off at the time. Gordo, as far as time goes, I think that was really interesting because I've noticed this with a lot of Netflix shows. They do not, because they don't have to, they don't structure their shows so that they fit that time format, that 22-minute sitcom to fit a half hour. But as a result, like when you watch any Netflix show, each episode's a completely different time. And I feel like just for their own sakes, just to be uniform, and because you never know what the future holds, like Netflix could become like an actual channel one day. You never know. Just stick to the format sometimes with that stuff.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, I feel like if it was, like Joe said, if it was shortened to that 22 to 24
maybe
minutes,
trim it down. It goes by a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it goes by a little bit quicker, and I think that's where I would give it a green light.
Yeah.
In that instance.
And Nick, to your point, comparing it to some of the other shows, I do think that when you look at the show, and we talked about it as we watched it, there were definitely points where a little bit of tweaking here and there could have been like a much, much better show. Whereas like Country Comfort, which we've covered, no saving that show. No saving it. There's nothing, the premise, everything about the show is wrong. The Big show we talked about, that show, you could have had Paul White potentially do a show that would be successful, but that structure and the whole premise of the show also didn't work. It's too focused on the kids, not enough about the adults. But where this show could work, it just needed something else. The writing needed to be a little bit more clever. Some of the jokes had a punch a little bit different, but it has a lot of potential. But that being said, I'm still going to vote with the rest of the guys and cancel it because I did find it a little tough to get through. It was a lot of eye rolling at some of the jokes. It was just too simple for me. It just didn't do it for me at all. But Kevin James did have his moments. I think he delivers well. And I think there's like room for him to have a new sitcom that would work. Because from King of Queens, he had that other, what was that show that he had after that?
Kevin Can't Wait.
Kevin Can't Wait.
There's a new single camera classic style sitcom in the works for him at Netflix already.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we will eventually cover, whatever that show ends up being. Kevin James, your next show. I hope we.
I want to see him step outside the character. Like I want to see like the serial killer Kevin James or something like that.
There's a movie about that where he's a Nazi serial killer. It came out last year. It's very good.
Shut up.
He's a Nazi skinhead serial killer in a cabin.
I'm gonna have to check that one out then. Let's
What's
see what
it
his range
called?
is
Chat
like.
after.
Yeah. Jesus.
What's it called?
I forget the name of it. I think it's on Hulu right now.
It's just called Kevin.
It's the name of it's like a
serial
girl's.
killer.
It's like a girl's name or something. It's called Kevin Can Fuck Himself.
So anyways, on that note, guys, 1 out of 5 greenlighting this show. So sorry to the crew. You do not live on to see another episode with us, at least.
And in real
as far
life.
as in real life goes, you did not live on to see a second season because Netflix cut it off after 10 episodes. So that's it. That's all the time we have for this week. I want to remind everyone to go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to our social media, everywhere where you can listen to us. Please rate, subscribe, review, do all that stuff. Spread the word. Let everybody know that we exist. We love interacting with you guys. We love when you guys comment on our Instagram photos, so keep it up. We like all that. We like interacting with you guys. So until next week, goodbye.
I think we got the best Kevin James.